Right now, 250 miles above your head, there's a laboratory moving at 17,500 miles per hour. It's not moving around in the way you might think. It's not traveling somewhere specific. It's just falling, constantly falling toward Earth, but moving sideways so fast that every time it would hit the ground curves away beneath it. It falls and falls and falls, and it never hits anything. Inside this laboratory, people are working. They're conducting experiments that can't be done anywhere else on Earth. They're fixing equipment with their hands, eating floating food out of pouches, sleeping in sleeping bags attached to walls. They're looking out windows at the curve of our planet while traveling faster than any human has ever traveled in their entire lives. They're living the dream that humans have had since we first looked up at the sky and wondered what it would be like to be up there looking down. This is the International Space Station. It's the most complex machine ever built. It's a triumph of human engineering, international cooperation, and stubborn determination to understand the universe we live in. But here's the thing that most people don't realize. The International Space Station has a limited lifetime. It won't last forever. The agreements that govern it expire. The costs of maintaining it are enormous. Already, conversations are happening about what comes next. In 2030 or 2031, the ISS might be deorbited, carefully brought down from orbit so that it burns up in the atmosphere or falls into the ocean. Which means that right now in the 2020s, we're living in the golden age of the ISS. The station is in its prime. It's fully staffed. The experiments are sophisticated. The results are remarkable. And if you want to be part of the ISS era, if you want to see what this incredible station is capable of, now is the time. This is the story of the International Space Station. It's a story of how humans built a permanent presence in space. It's a story of international cooperation in an era of political division. It's a story of the science being conducted up there and what it means for humanity. It's a story of the remarkable people who go up to the station and what they experience. Let me start by explaining what the ISS actually is, because it's much more complex than most people realize. The International Space Station is a space laboratory, a facility designed for scientific research, technology development, and exploration. It orbits Earth at an altitude of approximately 250 kilometers, or about 155 miles. At that altitude, it's well above the atmosphere, but not so far that reaching it is extremely difficult. It completes an orbit of Earth every 90 minutes, which means the crew experiences a sunrise and a sunset approximately 16 times every 24-hour period. The station is massive. The entire structure is roughly 357 feet long and 240 feet wide. That's longer than an American football field. It weighs approximately 420,000 kilograms, or about 925,000 pounds. Despite this enormous mass, it doesn't feel heavy in orbit because it's in free fall. Everything and everyone aboard is weightless, constantly falling around the Earth. The ISS is modular. It's not a single structure built as one unit. Rather, it's a collection of modules, cylindrical sections that were launched separately and then connected together in orbit. These modules were built by different countries and launched on different rockets at different times. Some modules are pressurized, meaning astronauts can breathe inside them without spacesuits. Other structures are unpressurized framework used for external equipment. The pressurized modules function as the living and working spaces. They include the Russian Zarya module, which was the first piece launched and serves as the power and propulsion module. There's the Russian service module Zvezda, which provides life support and attitude control. There are American modules like Unity, Tranquility, and Harmony, which are major hubs and living areas. There's the European Space Agency's Columbus module. There's the Japanese Kibo module, which is one of the largest pressurized modules and serves as a major laboratory. Outside the pressurized modules, the ISS has external structures. There's a large truss, a framework structure that runs across the station. Along this truss are solar arrays that generate power. These solar arrays can rotate to track the sun as Earth rotates beneath the station. The arrays generate over 120 kilowatts of power, which powers all the equipment on the station. The station has radiators that dissipate heat. Equipment generates tremendous heat, and in space there's no air to carry heat away. Radiators with a special coating radiate heat into space. Maintaining proper temperature is a constant challenge. The ISS has docking ports where visiting vehicles can attach. Soyuz spacecraft regularly dock to the station to bring crews and cargo. Cargo vehicles like the American Progress, the European ATV, and the Japanese HTV regularly dock to deliver supplies. Commercial cargo vehicles from SpaceX and Northrop Grumman now regularly resupply the station. The station has airlocks, chambers where crew can depressurize and then open a hatch to vacuum. Through these airlocks, astronauts in spacesuits can exit the station and perform spacewalks, extravehicular activity in the terminology used by NASA. All of this adds up to an extraordinarily complex orbital facility. It's not just a spacecraft. It's a full research laboratory, a manufacturing facility, a home, and a test bed for technologies that will be used on future missions to the Moon and Mars. Now, how did this incredible thing come to exist? The history is long and complicated, spanning from the Cold War to the modern era. The concept of a space station goes back decades. In the 1960s, both the United States and the Soviet Union were thinking about permanent human presence in space. The Soviets launched their first Salyut space station in 1971. The Americans launched Skylab in 1973. These were early space stations, but they were temporary. Crews visited, stayed for a while, and then came home. The stations were eventually abandoned and either burned up in the atmosphere or crashed. In the 1980s, NASA and other space agencies began thinking about a more ambitious project, a permanently occupied space station that could serve as a laboratory and staging point for further exploration. The Soviet Union, in the meantime, was building Mir, a modular space station launched in 1986. Mir was a series of modules that could be expanded over time. It was occupied continuously for over a decade, showing that long-term human presence in space was possible. Then, in 1993, something remarkable happened. President Clinton and the Russian leadership agreed to cooperate on a space station. This was remarkable because the United States and Russia had just finished decades of Cold War competition in space. But times were changing. The Soviet Union had collapsed. Russia needed economic help. The US wanted to keep former Soviet scientists engaged in peaceful work rather than being recruited by hostile actors. So Russia joined what had been planned as an American space station called Space Station Freedom. The name changed to the International Space Station, and the scope expanded to include other international partners. NASA signed agreements with the European Space Agency, Japan, Canada, and eventually many other nations. Construction began in 1998 when the Russian Zarya module was launched on a Russian Proton rocket. Then, a few weeks later, the American Unity module was launched on a space shuttle. These two modules met in orbit and were connected by astronauts during a spacewalk. This was the first major construction milestone. Over the following years, module after module was added to the station. Shuttle missions brought American modules and components. Russian Soyuz rockets brought Russian modules and resupply missions. European, Japanese, and Canadian equipment was integrated. It took over a decade to assemble the station to its current configuration. During this time, the station was continuously inhabited. Okay, crews rotated in and out roughly every 6 months. Even while construction was ongoing, science was being conducted. Experiments were running. The station was proving its value as a research facility. The Space Shuttle program was crucial to ISS construction. The shuttle could carry large modules and equipment and could bring crews up to stay for extended periods. Between 1998 and 2011, when the Space Shuttle program ended, shuttles flew over 30 missions to the ISS. These missions were critical for assembly and for maintaining the station. After the shuttle program ended, the station became dependent on other vehicles for crew transport. Russia's Soyuz spacecraft, which had been used alongside shuttles, became the sole means of getting crews to and from the station for several years. This created a concerning situation where US astronauts had to launch from Russian territory on Russian rockets, dependent on Russian goodwill. However, in recent years, commercial spacecraft have changed the equation. SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft has been certified for crewed missions and now regularly launches crews to the ISS from US territory. Boeing's CST-100 Starliner is also being developed for crew transport. This has reduced dependence on Russian rockets and created competitive redundancy for crew transport. The ISS reached its current fully assembled configuration around 2011. Since then, it has been maintained and utilized rather than being further expanded. The station continues to be resupplied with food, equipment, experiments, and fuel. Crews continue to rotate. The station continues to conduct research. The cost of the ISS is difficult to calculate, but estimates suggest the United States alone has spent over $100 billion on its development and operation. Russia has spent tens of billions of rubles. Other nations have contributed significant amounts. The total international investment is probably over $200 billion. This is an enormous amount of money. Critics argue that it could have been spent on other things. Supporters argue that the science conducted on the ISS, the technologies developed, and the human experience of having a permanent presence in space justify the expense. It's a debate that continues. Let me now talk about what daily life is actually like on the ISS, because it's remarkably different from life on Earth. The first thing that strikes any astronaut arriving at the ISS is weightlessness. There's no up or down on the station. You can float in any orientation. The floor is no different from the ceiling. This takes some getting used to. Astronauts report that it takes several days to weeks to fully adapt to weightlessness. They experience something called space sickness, nausea, disorientation, a feeling that their body is in the wrong orientation. Over time, the body adapts, the inner ear adjusts, and the sensation passes. Living in weightlessness has practical implications. Crew sleep in sleeping bags attached to walls. They don't really care which wall because there's no gravity to define the floor. Some crew have sleeping bags oriented relative to what's traditionally the floor, while others sleep along walls or even on the ceiling, depending on their preference and what part of the station they're in. Eating in weightlessness is different. Most food comes in pouches or cans that require special handling. Liquids are sucked through tubes. Water has to be drunk from a bag with a tube. Some food items can be stored fresh or refrigerated, but most is either freeze-dried or specially packaged for long-term storage and ready-to-eat consumption. Dining is usually a social activity where multiple crew members eat together, floating around a table while consuming their meals from pouches. The bathroom situation requires special equipment. Human waste needs to be contained and managed carefully. Urine is collected through a specially designed toilet with suction. Solid waste goes into a suction toilet as well. The waste is collected in bags or containers which are disposed of. It's not glamorous, but it's one of the critical systems that makes long-term human presence in space possible. Hygiene is maintained through wet wipes and limited washing facilities. There's no shower on the ISS because water in zero gravity doesn't behave like it does on Earth. Water droplets float around and can damage equipment. Astronauts wash with wet wipes and do their best to maintain hygiene in this unusual environment. The sleep-wake cycle on the ISS follows coordinated universal time. All crew members use the same time reference, which is set to UTC. However, this creates a challenge because the ISS experiences a sunrise and sunset every 45 minutes as it orbits Earth. The natural light-dark cycle that regulates human circadian rhythms is completely disrupted. Crew live on a 24-hour schedule, but their environment doesn't follow that cycle. They use interior lighting scheduled to their UTC-based day to help maintain circadian rhythms. Work on the ISS is demanding. Crew members work approximately 10 hours per day on average, conducting experiments, maintaining equipment, and performing tasks scheduled by mission control. The work is scheduled in advance, with every hour of every day planned. There's flexibility, but the schedule is tight. Crew also need time to exercise. In microgravity, muscles atrophy quickly if not exercised. Crew spend about 2 hours per day on exercise equipment. They use resistance equipment that works against springs or bungee cords since weights don't work in zero gravity. They use treadmills that have special restraints to keep them from floating away. Maintaining physical fitness is crucial because after months in space, the body has adapted to microgravity. Returning to Earth means experiencing heavy gravity again, and the body needs to be conditioned for that transition. Crew also need time to relax. They watch movies, read books, communicate with family via email and video calls, and simply look out the windows at Earth below. The view is one of the most remarkable aspects of being on the ISS. From 250 kilometers altitude, you can see weather systems, lightning storms, cities at night, and the thin atmosphere that protects all life on Earth. Many astronauts describe this view as profoundly moving. It changes their perspective on Earth and humanity. The station has windows. Cupola, a special module with 7 windows, provides 360-degree views of Earth and space. Crew spend hours looking out these windows, photographing Earth, and simply marveling at the view. The images they take are shared widely and have become iconic pictures of our planet. Now let me discuss the research being conducted on the ISS, because this is where the real value of the station becomes apparent. The ISS is used for microgravity research. The absence of gravity enables experiments that can't be done on Earth. Crystal growth experiments are conducted in microgravity, producing crystals with fewer defects than can be grown on Earth. These are valuable for materials science and for pharmaceutical development. Protein crystals can be grown in microgravity with exceptional purity and quality. These crystals are analyzed and the structure of proteins can be determined. Protein structure understanding is crucial for drug development. Medications designed on Earth can have their structure optimized based on high-quality protein crystals grown in space. Materials science experiments study how materials behave in the absence of gravity. Metals, alloys, and composites can be manufactured or analyzed in ways that aren't possible on Earth. Some of these materials might eventually be manufactured in space in bulk, taking advantage of the unique properties that microgravity enables. Combustion research is conducted. How do flames burn in microgravity? How do fuels and oxidizers mix? Understanding combustion in the absence of gravity is relevant to spacecraft propulsion, fire safety in spacecraft, and industrial combustion processes. Fluid dynamics experiments study how liquids behave without gravity. Droplet physics, phase separation, and fluid flow behavior are investigated. This has applications for spacecraft life support systems and for industrial processes. Biological and medical research is extensive. How do human cells behave in microgravity? How do human bodies adapt to long-term spaceflight? Understanding these questions is crucial for future long-duration missions to the Moon and Mars. Experiments investigate bone loss, muscle atrophy, changes in body fluids, vision changes, and numerous other physiological responses to spaceflight. Plant research is conducted. Seeds are grown in microgravity. How do plants develop roots and shoots when there's no gravity to define the direction? How does photosynthesis work in the absence of gravity? Understanding plant biology in space is relevant to growing food for future space missions. Radiation research is conducted because the ISS is outside Earth's protective magnetic field and is exposed to cosmic radiation. How does radiation affect living organisms? What is the radiation environment in orbit? These questions are important for understanding risks to astronauts on long-duration missions and for designing spacecraft radiation shielding. Astronomy is conducted from the ISS. Though the Hubble Space Telescope is more famous, the ISS also hosts astronomical instruments. The International Space Station can observe Earth, the Sun, and various astronomical phenomena. Some observations complement those from other space observatories. Earth observation is a major activity. Cameras and instruments on the ISS observe Earth's atmosphere, oceans, land, and weather systems. Images of Earth's surface are used for environmental monitoring, disaster response, and scientific research. Some of the most iconic images of Earth have been taken from the ISS by crew members using handheld cameras. Technology testing is conducted. New systems, tools, and processes are tested on the ISS. Virtual reality equipment, robotic systems, 3D printing, and numerous other technologies have been tested in the orbital environment. This helps determine whether they're suitable for future missions. The variety of research is remarkable. The ISS truly is a world-class laboratory, enabling science that couldn't be conducted anywhere else on Earth. Now let me discuss how crews actually get to the ISS and stay there, because the logistics are complex and remarkable. Crews are typically launched on Russian Soyuz spacecraft. The Soyuz is a 3-module spacecraft that has been used for human spaceflight since the 1960s. The Soyuz is launched from Kazakhstan on a Soyuz rocket. The journey to the ISS typically takes about 6 hours. The spacecraft makes several orbits of Earth, gradually raising its orbit until it reaches the altitude of the ISS, then performs a rendezvous and docking. The crew of a typical ISS expedition consists of 6 people. 3 crew members launch together, typically stay for 6 months, then return together. Simultaneously, the three crew members who were already on the station prepare to return. This creates a handover period where both crews are on the station together, allowing the departing crew to brief the incoming crew on current conditions and ongoing experiments. Some expeditions have had 13 people on the ISS briefly during handovers, though this is unusual. The station typically operates with 6 permanent crew members. A 6-month mission is long. Crew members are away from Earth, from family, from everything they know for half a year. They live in an environment where every breath they take has been recycled through systems that remove carbon dioxide and replenish oxygen. Every drop of water they drink has been processed and recycled. The toilet waste has been processed and eventually disposed of. They live in a can, suspended in the vacuum of space, depending entirely on systems that must work flawlessly. Training for ISS missions is extensive. Astronaut selection itself is competitive and rigorous. Candidates must have excellent academic credentials, typically advanced degrees in engineering or science. They must pass rigorous medical and psychological evaluations. They must demonstrate the ability to work in teams, remain calm under pressure, and adapt to novel situations. Once selected, astronauts spend years in training. They learn the systems of the ISS in detail. They practice emergency procedures. They learn to operate all the equipment they might encounter. They spend time in underwater training, which simulates the microgravity environment and allows them to practice spacewalks. They fly in the NASA Vomit Comet, an airplane that parabolas through the sky, providing brief periods of weightlessness during which they can practice living in the microgravity environment. They learn Russian to communicate with Russian crew members. They study the science experiments they'll be conducting. The psychological preparation is as important as the technical training. Astronauts must be prepared for the emotional and psychological challenges of being in space for months. They undergo psychological evaluation to ensure they can handle isolation, confinement, and the stress of living in a dangerous environment far from everything familiar. When crew members return to Earth after 6 months in space, they experience re-entry. The Soyuz spacecraft descends through the atmosphere. The heat generated by friction reaches several thousand degrees. The spacecraft's heat shield protects the crew. Then, parachutes deploy and slow the descent. The spacecraft lands on the steppes of Kazakhstan, relatively hard. After landing, astronauts can barely move. Their bodies have adapted to weightlessness. The return to full Earth gravity is shocking. They're exhausted. They're disoriented. They can't walk without assistance. Their cardiovascular system has adapted to weightlessness. Their inner ear has adapted. Their muscles have atrophied. They've lost bone density. Rehabilitation takes weeks to months. Most astronauts gradually recover, but the return to Earth is one of the most challenging aspects of spaceflight. Some crew members suffer from post-landing sickness, nausea, and disorientation that can last for days. Some experience vision changes. Some experience orthostatic intolerance, inability to regulate blood pressure when standing up. These effects typically resolve over time as the body readapts to Earth gravity. Now let me discuss some of the challenges and problems the ISS has faced, because it hasn't all been smooth sailing. The ISS is in a decaying orbit. Gradually over time, atmospheric drag at 250 kilometers altitude causes the orbit to decay. The station loses altitude. If nothing were done, it would eventually re-enter the atmosphere. To prevent this, the station must be periodically rebosted. Its orbit must be raised. This is done by firing thrusters on the service module or by docking spacecraft that fire their engines to push the station to higher altitude. Regular reboosts are necessary and are scheduled regularly. Micrometeorite impacts are a concern. Space debris is everywhere. Tiny fragments moving at tremendous velocity can impact the station and cause damage. The ISS has shielding to protect critical systems, but large impacts could potentially be catastrophic. Several times, potential debris impacts have been detected, and the crew has taken shelter in the Soyuz spacecraft, prepared for emergency evacuation if necessary. Fortunately, serious impacts have been rare, but the threat is real. Life support systems are crucial and have occasionally malfunctioned. The systems that generate oxygen, remove carbon dioxide, purify water, and manage thermal control are complex and interdependent. If critical systems fail, the crew's safety is jeopardized. Several times, degraded or failed systems have been identified and repaired. NASA and other agencies work constantly to ensure redundancy and reliability in critical systems. Medical emergencies have occurred. Crew members have suffered injuries and illnesses while on the ISS. One astronaut experienced a retinal detachment, a serious eye condition. He was returned to Earth early for treatment. Another astronaut suffered a severe eye infection. These incidents highlight that medical care on the ISS is limited. Crew members are trained in emergency medicine, but surgery can't be performed in the orbital environment. Life-threatening medical emergencies would necessitate immediate return to Earth. Psychological challenges are real. Isolation, confinement, being separated from family for months, the stress of living in a dangerous environment. These take a psychological toll. Some crew members have had difficulty coping. One astronaut reported experiencing depression during his time on the ISS. Adequate psychological support before, during, and after missions is essential. Technical failures have occurred. The primary toilet on the ISS failed in 2007, forcing the crew to use a backup system. Equipment failures are not uncommon and require crew to perform emergency repairs or improvise solutions. The crew on the ISS must be capable of troubleshooting and fixing complex systems with minimal assistance from Earth. Despite these challenges, the ISS has proven to be remarkably reliable and safe. No one has died on the ISS. Emergency situations have been managed successfully. The station has survived for over 2 decades of continuous human presence. This is a testament to the engineering that went into its design and construction, and to the professionalism and competence of the astronauts and cosmonauts who operate it. Let me now discuss some remarkable moments and remarkable people associated with the ISS. Peggy Whitson holds the record for most time in space by an American astronaut, over 600 days spread across multiple missions. She's become almost synonymous with the ISS, having lived and worked there for extended periods. She's conducted groundbreaking research and has become an inspiration to many who follow her career. Chris Hadfield is a Canadian astronaut who flew 3 times to the ISS, commanding Expedition 35. He became famous for his educational outreach, making videos from space, conducting experiments designed to engage the public, and communicating the wonder and importance of space exploration. His video of himself singing David Bowie's Space Oddity while floating in the cupola became an internet sensation and introduced millions of people to the reality of life in space. Yuri Gagarin was the first human in space in 1961, but Thomas Stafford of Skylab fame, who later visited the ISS, bridged the era from those earliest days to the modern ISS. Astronauts and cosmonauts who work on the ISS are part of a tradition that goes back to Gagarin and Konstantin Tsiolkovsky before him. The first woman in space was Valentina Tereshkova in 1963. Women have been flying to the ISS since the earliest days of the station. Female astronauts have commanded expeditions, performed spacewalks, and conducted important research. Women constitute an important part of the ISS crew. Jessica Meir and Christina Koch held a historic spacewalk in 2019, the first all-female spacewalk. This broke ground for women in spaceflight and demonstrated that women are equally capable of performing the most challenging spacewalk tasks. Astronauts have conducted remarkable experiments from the ISS. Experiments that were born on Earth have been nursed to success in the orbital laboratory. Scientific discoveries have been made. Technologies have been developed that might eventually benefit humanity in profound ways. There's also a human element to the ISS crew members from different countries work together in this confined space for 6 months. Cultural exchange happens. International cooperation happens not at a government level, but at a personal, daily level. These relationships have proven to be powerful bridges between nations. Now let me discuss the future of the ISS, because it's at a crossroads. The ISS was designed for a lifespan of about 15 years. Its current configuration was reached around 2011. The station has already exceeded its original design life. It could potentially continue operating beyond 2030 with maintenance and upgrades, but the systems are aging. Eventually, something critical will fail, or the cost of maintaining the station will exceed the value it provides, or political decisions will determine its fate. Currently, agreements govern the operation of the ISS. Russia, the United States, Europe, Japan, and Canada have agreements to operate the station through 2024 with an option to extend through 2030. Those conversations are ongoing. Russia has expressed some ambivalence about its continued participation, suggesting at times that it might leave the partnership and build its own space station. However, the Russian segment of the ISS remains crucial, particularly for propulsion and attitude control, so separation would be complicated. Various options have been proposed for the future of the ISS. One option is continued operation through the 2030s with upgrades and maintenance. Another is a controlled deorbit around 2031, where the station would be carefully brought down from orbit and either burned up in the atmosphere or directed into the ocean. A third option involves conversion of some modules into an independent station operated by a private company or a subset of international partners. SpaceX founder Elon Musk has expressed interest in space stations and has discussed building private orbital facilities. Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, has also expressed interest in space stations. Commercial space stations might replace the ISS as platforms for research and tourism. If the ISS is deorbited, its legacy won't end. The scientific discoveries made on the ISS will continue to benefit humanity. The technologies developed will be refined and applied. The human experience of living in space will inform future missions to the Moon and Mars. The international cooperation that built and operated the ISS will serve as a model for future international space projects. Missions to the Moon are being planned under the Artemis program. The Lunar Gateway, a planned space station in lunar orbit, will build on lessons learned from the ISS. Techniques developed on the ISS for life support, power generation, and long-duration spaceflight will be applied to future missions. Missions to Mars are being planned for decades in the future. The ISS is being used to study physiological responses to long-duration spaceflight, to develop technologies and to prepare humanity for the challenge of sustaining humans in space for the multi-year duration of a Mars mission. So the ISS, even if it's deorbited, will have been crucial to the next chapter of human spaceflight. Let me discuss the international cooperation aspect of the ISS because it's one of the most remarkable aspects of the station. The ISS is a rare example of successful international cooperation. During the Cold War, space was a competition. The US and Soviet Union raced to achieve milestones. After the Cold War ended, the decision to cooperate on a space station was historic. It represented a commitment to peaceful cooperation in space. The agreement that governs the ISS is the International Space Station Intergovernmental Agreement, signed in 1998. It's based on principles that are remarkably enlightened. The station is used for peaceful purposes. Scientific benefits are shared internationally. No single nation can dominate the station. Decisions are made through consensus. The multinational aspect of the ISS is evident in its design. Russian modules were designed by Russian engineers. American modules were designed by American engineers. European, Japanese, and Canadian components were designed by their respective agencies. The result is a station that represents the best engineering from multiple nations. Crews on the ISS are multinational. An American commander might work alongside Russian, European, Japanese, and Canadian crew members. They communicate in English, the working language of the ISS, but they bring their own cultural perspectives and expertise. This multinational crew has worked remarkably well together despite political differences between their nations. The ISS has survived geopolitical tensions that might have threatened the partnership. When Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, there were discussions about whether Russia should be expelled from the ISS partnership. Ultimately, cooler heads prevailed. Both Russia and the US recognized that maintaining the ISS partnership was more important than using the station as leverage in the conflict. The station remained operational and international cooperation continued. This is a lesson for international relations, that cooperation in space, in science, can transcend political divisions and create bonds between peoples. Let me now discuss some of the remarkable scientific discoveries made on the ISS. Research on protein crystal growth has led to better understanding of diseases and better drug design. Proteins that were difficult to crystallize on Earth have been successfully crystallized in microgravity, allowing researchers to determine their structure and design drugs to target them. Research on combustion in microgravity has revealed new phenomena and improved our understanding of flame dynamics. This has applications for fire safety in spacecraft and for optimizing industrial combustion processes. Research on biological responses to spaceflight has revealed that humans can adapt to microgravity remarkably well, but also experience changes that must be carefully managed. We've learned how to mitigate bone loss, muscle atrophy, and cardiovascular changes through exercise and other interventions. Research on manufacturing in microgravity has demonstrated that some materials can be manufactured in space with properties superior to materials manufactured on Earth. This has sparked interest in manufacturing facilities in space in the future. Research on plant biology has shown that plants can grow in microgravity, though their development is different from Earth. They don't develop the typical root and shoot geometry, suggesting that gravity influences plant development. This has implications for growing food in space. Research on fundamental physics has been conducted on the ISS. Experiments testing the behavior of matter at the atomic level, studies of quantum phenomena, and observations of astronomical phenomena have been conducted from the ISS. All of this research has contributed to our understanding of the universe, to improvements in medicine and technology, and to humanity's ability to live in space. Now, let me talk about the experience of watching Earth from the ISS, because this is something that affects every astronaut profoundly. The ISS orbits Earth at an inclination of 51.6 degrees, which means it can reach latitudes from 51.6 degrees north to 51.6 degrees south. The crew experiences Earth from this vantage point. They see weather systems, mountains, cities, oceans, deserts, forests. They see the terminator line, the boundary between day and night, sweep across the planet every 45 minutes. At night, from the ISS, cities appear as lights on the dark surface of Earth. Lightnings. Storms can be seen from above as occasional bright flashes. The aurora borealis and aurora australis, the northern and southern lights, are visible from the ISS and have been photographed extensively. From the ISS, the thinness of Earth's atmosphere is apparent. The atmosphere appears as a thin blue line, a fragile shell surrounding the planet. Many astronauts report that seeing Earth's atmosphere this way profoundly changes their perspective on environmental issues. The atmosphere is thin, delicate, and worth protecting. The overview effect, a phenomenon where astronauts develop a profound perspective shift after seeing Earth from space, is commonly reported by ISS crew. They report feeling a sense of unity with humanity, a recognition that all humans share this planet, that national borders are invisible from space, that the divisions that seem so important on Earth dissolve when you see the whole planet as a unified home. This perspective has political implications. Astronauts often become advocates for environmental protection and international cooperation after their experiences in space. The view from the ISS has also inspired millions of people on Earth who see images captured by astronauts. The blue marble image showing Earth's beauty and fragility has become an iconic representation of our planet. These images inspire wonder and promote environmental consciousness. Let me discuss some of the unique challenges of building and maintaining a structure in space. Spacecraft and space stations must operate in an environment completely unlike Earth. There's no air to cool equipment, no gravity to move liquids, no weather, no day-night cycle. Though there are multiple day-night cycles from the orbiting perspective, every system must be designed for these conditions. Temperature control is a major challenge. The ISS experiences temperatures ranging from minus 157 degrees Celsius on the night side to 121 degrees Celsius on the day side as it orbits. Equipment must be insulated and controlled to operate at safe temperatures. Radiators dump waste heat into space, where it can radiate away. But the thermal environment is harsh and constantly changing. Power generation must be reliable. The ISS uses solar arrays for power. These arrays have to withstand the thermal stresses of the orbital environment and must be positioned to track the sun as the station orbits. The solar arrays have degraded over time and have been partially replaced during spacewalks. Radiation protection is necessary. The ISS orbits above Earth's magnetosphere in some passes, exposing crew to cosmic radiation. Shielding helps, but there's no way to eliminate radiation exposure entirely. Research on radiation effects has been important for understanding risks to astronauts. Water is a precious resource. The ISS uses water for cooling, drinking, hygiene, and scientific experiments. Water is launched on resupply vehicles, but some water is recycled from humidity and urine. The water recycling system has been critical to reducing resupply requirements. Microgravity affects many systems. Fluids behave differently. Combustion behaves differently. Thermal convection doesn't work. There's no gravity-driven, density-driven convection. Equipment must be designed for these conditions. Docking mechanisms must work reliably to connect visiting spacecraft to the ISS. These mechanisms must seal perfectly to prevent air leaks. They must align precisely in the vacuum of space. The Soyuz docking system has been remarkably reliable over decades of use. All of this engineering is invisible to most people on Earth. They see the ISS as a visible point of light moving across the night sky. But the engineering behind that point of light is extraordinary. Let me discuss why humans continue to be important on the ISS. Despite the possibility of doing everything with robots, robots can conduct some tasks, but they lack the flexibility, creativity, and problem-solving ability of humans. When something unexpected happens, equipment breaks, an experiment fails in an unforeseen way, a human can troubleshoot, improvise, and find a solution. A robot can only do what it's programmed to do. Humans can make intuitive judgments. If a system isn't behaving as expected, a human can recognize the anomaly, diagnose the problem, and implement a fix. This flexibility is invaluable in a complex system like the ISS. Humans can conduct experiments in ways that robots cannot. Some research requires careful observation, adjustment based on results, and real-time decision-making. These tasks are better suited to human experimenters than to pre-programmed robots. Finally, humans bring wonder and meaning to space exploration. When a human astronaut takes a photograph of Earth from orbit, that image carries meaning. When a human describes the experience of seeing Earth from space, that story inspires millions. Robots don't inspire in the same way. Humans do. The ISS, despite being a machine, is fundamentally about human achievement, human curiosity, and human exploration. Now let me reflect on what the ISS means for the future of humanity. The ISS demonstrates that humans can live and work in space for extended periods. It shows that humans are not bound to Earth forever. If we choose, we can expand humanity's presence beyond this planet. The ISS demonstrates international cooperation. In a world of political division, the ISS shows what humans can accomplish when we work together for a common goal. The partnerships forged in building and operating the ISS could be models for other international endeavors. The ISS demonstrates the value of basic research and exploration. Some of the research conducted on the ISS doesn't have an obvious, immediate practical application. But historically, basic research has led to applications that transformed society. The printing press, electricity, computers, all began as basic research before their world-changing applications became apparent. The ISS is continuing this tradition of basic research, investing in understanding the universe without knowing in advance what practical benefits will result. The ISS also demonstrates human ambition and persistence. The vision of a permanently inhabited space station was ambitious. Building it required overcoming enormous technical challenges, international cooperation, and commitment over decades. The fact that it exists is testament to human determination to reach beyond what seems immediately possible. Looking forward, the ISS might be followed by lunar bases, Mars missions, and eventually settlements on other worlds. But none of that would be possible without the experience gained from building and operating the ISS. The ISS is the crucial step that makes future space exploration possible. Let me address the question of why space exploration matters when there are problems on Earth that need solving. This is a false dichotomy. Space exploration doesn't prevent us from solving Earth problems. The same technical innovation that goes into spacecraft can be applied to solving Earth problems. Technologies developed for spaceflight, advanced materials, water recycling systems, solar power, medical technologies have been adapted for use on Earth. But more fundamentally, humans have always explored. We've always tried to go places no one has been before. Space is the frontier of that exploration. It's what we do as a species. We push boundaries and see what's beyond. Moreover, space exploration provides perspective. Seeing Earth from space, understanding Earth's place in the cosmos, understanding the fragility of our planet and the preciousness of the life it contains, these are valuable perspectives. They help us care for Earth. Space exploration also expands human possibility. It shows that humans are capable of extraordinary achievements. It inspires people to pursue science and engineering. It demonstrates that the future is not written. It's something we create through innovation and determination. The ISS exemplifies this. It's not solving any immediate human problem, but it's expanding human capability, advancing science, inspiring people, and preparing humanity for the next chapter of space exploration. Now, let me discuss some of the remarkable photographs that have been taken from the ISS. The blue marble photograph. Earth as a complete sphere against the blackness of space is one of the most iconic images in history. Variations of this image have been taken from the ISS, updated versions of the original blue marble photographs taken during the Apollo program. Photographs of Earth's weather systems reveal the power and beauty of nature. Hurricane photographs taken from the ISS show the structure of these powerful storms in detail. The extent of nighttime illumination reveals the enormous extent of human infrastructure and energy use. Photographs of natural phenomena show Earth's geography in detail. Mountains, rivers, deserts, forests, ice sheets are all revealed in beautiful detail in photographs taken from the ISS. These photographs help Earth scientists study the planet's geography and geology. Astronauts on the ISS have also taken selfies, photographs of themselves with Earth in the background. These personal photographs, unlike the scientific imagery, capture the human element of spaceflight and the sense of wonder that astronauts feel. The images from the ISS have changed how we see Earth. They've inspired environmental consciousness. They've shown Earth's beauty. They've revealed Earth's fragility. Let me discuss some of the specific scientific achievements that have emerged from research on the ISS. The crystallization of the protein complex called the ribosome was significantly advanced by research on the ISS. The ribosome is the cellular machinery that translates genetic information into proteins. Understanding its structure is crucial for understanding how life works at the molecular level. High-quality ribosomal protein crystals grown in space contributed to researchers eventually solving the complete structure of the ribosome, work for which they received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Research on combustion and microgravity revealed phenomena that hadn't been observed in Earth experiments. Flames behave differently in the absence of gravity. This research has improved our understanding of combustion and has applications for spacecraft propulsion and fire safety. Research on the biological responses of humans to spaceflight has revealed adaptation mechanisms and has led to countermeasures, techniques for preventing or mitigating the negative effects of weightlessness. Understanding what happens to the human body in space is crucial for long-duration missions. Research on plant growth in microgravity has shown that plants can grow in space but develop differently than on Earth. This research is relevant to growing food in space for future lunar and Martian settlements. Research on materials in microgravity has revealed new properties of familiar materials and has demonstrated that space manufacturing could eventually be economically viable. Some materials have properties in space that make them more valuable than their cost to produce. All of these research achievements benefit humanity. They advance scientific knowledge, improve human health, and develop technologies that will be crucial for future space exploration. Let me now reflect on the personal experiences of astronauts who have lived on the ISS and how their experiences have changed their perspectives. Peggy Whitson, who has spent over 600 days in space, has spoken about how her time on the ISS changed her perspective on life, work, and humanity. She's described the beauty of Earth from space, the camaraderie of the multinational crew, and the profound sense of purpose in conducting research that contributes to scientific understanding. Chris Hadfield has spoken eloquently about the overview effect, the profound perspective shift that comes from seeing Earth from space. He's described how this experience changes how astronauts think about environmental protection and international cooperation. Luca Parmitano, an Italian astronaut, experienced a serious problem during a spacewalk when his helmet began to leak water. The presence of water inside his helmet during a spacewalk is extremely dangerous. It can interfere with vision and communication, and can lead to hypothermia. Parmitano managed to return to the airlock safely despite this emergency. His account of the incident demonstrates the dangers of spacewalks and the courage required of astronauts who perform them. Kathy Sullivan made history by becoming the first American woman to conduct a spacewalk. Her account of the experience reveals both the technical challenge and the profound beauty of working outside a spacecraft in the vacuum of space. Jessica Meir conducted the first all-female spacewalk in 2019, demonstrating that women are equally capable of performing the most challenging tasks in spaceflight. These personal stories, told by the astronauts who lived them, add a human dimension to the scientific and technical achievements of the ISS. They reveal that the ISS is not just a machine or a facility. It's a place where humans test the limits of human capability and where humans are profoundly changed by the experience. Let me discuss the future of human spaceflight beyond the ISS. NASA is planning the Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon. The first missions will establish a lunar presence, build habitats, and prepare for long-term moon exploration. This will require technologies and approaches developed on the ISS. The Lunar Gateway is a planned space station in lunar orbit that will support lunar exploration. It will use life support and power systems developed for the ISS, but will be adapted for the lunar orbit environment. Eventually, humans will travel to Mars. This will require spacecraft capable of sustaining humans for months during transit. It will require techniques for generating oxygen and water, producing food, and maintaining crew health during long-duration spaceflight. All of this is being studied on the ISS. Mars bases will eventually be established. Humans will live on Mars for extended periods, conducting science and eventually building a permanent settlement. These future Martian bases will use technologies and approaches developed for the ISS. The ISS is the stepping stone to all of this. It's the platform on which humanity is learning to live in space, to conduct research in microgravity, to cooperate internationally in space, and to prepare for the expansion of human presence beyond Earth. In 100 years or more, historians will look back at the ISS and recognize it as one of the most important projects humans have ever undertaken. It will be seen as the step that allowed humanity to break free from Earth's gravity and expand beyond this planet. The ISS will likely be gone by then, either deorbited or repurposed or replaced by more advanced facilities, but its legacy will continue. The science conducted there will inform research for centuries. The technologies developed will be refined and improved. The international cooperation that built it will serve as a model for future ventures. The ISS represents what humans can accomplish when we work together, when we invest in curiosity and exploration, when we push against the boundaries of what seems possible. It represents hope for the future and proof that humans have the capability to achieve remarkable things. Looking up at the night sky, if you know where to look, you can sometimes see the ISS passing overhead. It's a bright point of light moving across the sky, faster than any airplane. Watching it pass, knowing that humans are living there right now, conducting research, pushing the boundaries of human capability. It's inspiring. The ISS is a testament to human ambition, human ingenuity, and human determination. It's a space laboratory, yes, but it's also a symbol of human possibility and human hope for the future. Let me provide more detail on some of the specific modules that make up the ISS, because understanding the modules gives a clearer picture of how this remarkable structure is organized. The Russian Zarya module was the first piece of the ISS launched into orbit in 1998. It was launched on a Proton rocket from Kazakhstan. Zarya means sunrise in Russian, which is a poetic name for what became the foundation of the station. Zarya serves as a cargo carrier, living quarters, and provides power and propulsion. It was designed as a backup to the Mir space station, but when it became apparent that an international space station would be built, Zarya was adapted for that purpose. The module is about 41 meters long and was the most expensive single payload launched at the time of its launch, over $400 million. The American Unity module was launched just weeks after Zarya. Unity is the hub of the ISS, with 6 docking ports that allow other modules to connect. It's where the US and Russian segments of the station physically connect. The module is about 16 meters long and weighs nearly 27,000 kilograms. Inside Unity, crew can access different modules and can transfer between the American and Russian segments of the station. The Russian Zvezda service module came later and became the primary crew accommodation for the Russian segment. It provides life support, attitude control, and propulsion. It houses crew sleeping quarters and provides the primary toilet for the Russian segment. Zvezda means star in Russian, and it's one of the most heavily used modules on the station. The American Destiny module is the primary scientific laboratory. It's over 28 meters long and weighs over 32,000 kilograms. Destiny provides laboratory space and houses equipment for various experiments. It's where much of the scientific work on the American side of the station is conducted. The Tranquility module provides environmental systems and waste management. It's home to the primary toilet for the American segment and houses water recovery and management equipment. It's not as glamorous as the laboratory modules, but it's absolutely essential to the functioning of the station. The Harmony module serves as a connecting hub and provides additional docking ports. It also contains environmental systems and life support equipment. The architecture of the ISS involves strategic placement of hubs and modules to allow expansion and modification. The European Space Agency's Columbus module is the primary European laboratory. It's a smaller module but houses significant scientific equipment. Columbus represents European contributions to the research and engineering of the station. The Japanese Kibo module is one of the largest pressurized modules. Kibo means hope in Japanese, and it's a significant Japanese contribution to the station. Kibo has an exposed external facility where equipment and experiments can be exposed to the space environment without pressurization. Kibo houses much of Japan's research capability on the station. Each module was designed by engineers in its home country. Each was launched separately. Each was connected to the growing structure through meticulous procedures involving spacewalks and robotics. The fact that modules designed independently could be connected and interface with each other is testament to the international coordination and standardization that went into the ISS design. Now let me discuss spacewalks in detail because they represent some of the most dangerous and most important work conducted on the ISS. A spacewalk, or EVA, extravehicular activity, is when an astronaut exits the station while wearing a spacesuit and performs work outside. The first spacewalk occurred in 1965 when Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov spent about 12 minutes outside his Voskhod spacecraft. Spacewalks have continued ever since as an essential tool for assembling, maintaining, and repairing spacecraft and space stations. For the ISS, spacewalks have been crucial. Many of the modules couldn't be assembled without spacewalks. Solar arrays were deployed by spacewalks. Radiators were installed by spacewalks. Equipment was repaired and replaced by spacewalks. A spacewalk is extremely dangerous. The suit must provide everything the astronaut needs to survive: oxygen, pressure regulation, temperature control, and protection from radiation and micrometeorites. The suit is complex and consists of layers designed to provide these functions. Before a spacewalk, the astronaut and crew go through extensive preparation. The suit is checked and rechecked. The procedure is reviewed many times. The crew rehearses the steps. Redundant systems are confirmed to be functioning. On the day of the spacewalk, the astronaut puts on the suit and enters an airlock. The airlock is sealed and the pressure is reduced to match the vacuum of space. Then the outer hatch is opened and the astronaut exits the station. The first few moments outside are remarkable. Astronauts report overwhelming sensations, looking down at Earth far below, seeing the stars without the atmosphere distorting them, feeling the reality of being outside a spacecraft in the vacuum of space. It's disorienting and profound all at once. The astronaut is tethered to the station with cables that prevent them from floating away. The cable is attached to a safety line that can be moved along the exterior structures of the station. Multiple redundant safety systems are in place because even one mistake could be catastrophic. The work itself is challenging. Astronauts are wearing bulky gloves that make fine manipulation difficult. They're working in conditions they've trained for but never quite experienced in reality. They have only a limited amount of oxygen in the suit, typically enough for about 7 hours, though the spacewalk usually lasts 6 to 7 hours because some oxygen is reserved for emergencies. Despite the danger, spacewalks have proven to be safe when proper procedures are followed. No astronaut has died during a spacewalk, though there have been close calls. One astronaut reported becoming disoriented and losing track of which way was toward the station. A dangerous situation resolved by careful communication with the crew inside. Another astronaut experienced a suit malfunction that caused the suit to overpressurize. The astronaut recognized the problem, managed the situation, and returned to the airlock without serious injury. These incidents demonstrate both the risks of spacewalks and the courage and competence of astronauts who perform them. Spacewalks for ISS maintenance and repair will continue to be necessary for as long as the station operates. The equipment outside, solar arrays, radiators, ammonia loops, all degrade over time in the harsh space environment and require maintenance and repair. Now let me discuss astronaut training in detail because it's comprehensive and takes years. Aspiring astronauts first go through selection, where they compete against thousands of other applicants. The selection process evaluates academic credentials, technical expertise, flying ability for military test pilots, psychological fitness, and personal characteristics. Only a small percentage of applicants are selected. Once selected, astronauts enter basic astronaut training, which lasts about 2 years. During this training, they learn the fundamental systems of spacecraft and space stations. They study orbital mechanics, spacecraft design, life support systems, and numerous other technical subjects. They undergo survival training in case they have to eject from an aircraft or land in an inhospitable location. They undergo altitude training in an aircraft that reaches the edge of space. They also undergo aquatic training. A large swimming pool at the NASA facility in Houston contains full-scale mock-ups of modules and equipment from spacecraft and space stations. Astronauts train underwater, which simulates many aspects of microgravity. Scuba gear provides controlled buoyancy, approximating weightlessness. Multiple divers, safety divers, and instructors are present to ensure safety. The underwater environment is cold, confined, and stressful, all characteristics that help prepare astronauts for the reality of spacewalks and working in spacecraft. After basic training, astronauts undergo advanced training for specific missions. This might involve training on systems specific to the ISS, training on particular experiments they'll be conducting, or training on procedures for emergencies and contingencies. For astronauts who will conduct spacewalks, additional specialized training is necessary. They spend many hours underwater practicing the specific tasks they'll perform outside. Every movement is repeated multiple times until it becomes automatic. This repetition is crucial because when actually performing the spacewalk, stress and the difficulty of working in a bulky suit make it easy to make mistakes. By practicing repeatedly, astronauts develop muscle memory for the tasks. Some spacewalk training also occurs in neutral buoyancy, where the astronaut is submerged and positioned at neutral buoyancy, where they don't sink or float. In this condition, they can practice spacewalk procedures in a way that more closely simulates the actual environment of space. Astronauts also train in the neutral buoyancy lab, where large mock-ups of ISS modules are submerged. Spacewalk procedures are rehearsed over and over in this facility. The training is repetitive and demanding, but it's essential for ensuring that spacewalks are conducted safely and successfully. Psychological training is also important. Astronauts work with psychologists to prepare for the stress of spaceflight, the confinement of a spacecraft, and the dangers they'll face. They learn stress management techniques and problem-solving approaches. They're screened for psychological fitness and counseled on strategies for coping with the challenges they'll face. Language training is necessary for international crew members. American astronauts train in Russian to communicate with Russian crew members and to operate Russian systems. Russian cosmonauts train in English for communication with American crew members. Training typically continues right up to launch. astronauts spend the weeks and days before launch in intensive review of procedures, systems, and emergency protocols. The intensity of preparation reflects the seriousness of human spaceflight. Despite all this preparation, astronauts report that the actual experience of spaceflight is different from the training. The training prepares them, but the reality is more overwhelming, more profound, and more humbling than any simulation. Let me discuss some of the emergencies and mishaps that have occurred on the ISS and how they've been handled. In 2007, the primary toilet on the ISS malfunctioned. The crew used a backup system while engineers worked on repairs. The situation required the crew to use backup procedures while living aboard the station. Eventually, a replacement was installed during a resupply mission. This incident demonstrated both the importance of redundancy in critical systems and the crew's ability to adapt and improvise. In 2009, a Soyuz spacecraft docked to the station collided with a Progress cargo vehicle during an automated docking attempt. The Progress was damaged, but the crew was not in danger. This incident highlighted the risks of automated docking systems and led to changes in docking procedures. In 2013, a lithium-ion battery on the station's external solar arrays failed. This required replacement of the battery, which was accomplished during a spacewalk. The failure demonstrated that even well-designed and tested equipment can fail unexpectedly. In 2015, a Progress cargo vehicle failed during launch and was destroyed. The loss of supplies was significant, but the crew had enough supplies on board to manage the situation until the next resupply mission arrived. This incident demonstrated the importance of maintaining adequate supplies and having backup systems. In 2018, a small hole was discovered in the hull of a Soyuz spacecraft docked to the station. The origin of the hole, whether it was a manufacturing defect or caused by a micrometeorite impact, was investigated. The hole was patched and the spacecraft was eventually returned to Earth. This incident highlighted the reality that even spacecraft operate in an environment full of hazards. These incidents, while sometimes serious, have been managed successfully by the professional crew and the support teams on Earth. No incident has forced an emergency evacuation of the station or resulted in loss of life. This safety record is a testament to the engineering of the station and the competence of the people who operate it. Now let me discuss the view of Earth from the ISS in more detail, because this is an experience that profoundly affects everyone who sees it. From the ISS, Earth appears as a sphere, although most crew view it primarily as landscapes and features they're orbiting over rather than as a complete planet. The curvature of Earth is visible, a gentle curve against the blackness of space. At the ISS's altitude of 250 kilometers, Earth's curvature is obvious, but not as dramatic as from the higher altitude of the Hubble Space Telescope or from the Moon. Weather systems are visible in detail. Hurricanes and typhoons appear as spiral patterns, their structure and rotation visible from above. Thunderstorms appear as dark areas with lightning occasionally visible at night. Cloud patterns reveal atmospheric circulation, trade winds, and jet streams. Mountains appear as dark ridges against the landscape. The Himalayas, the Rocky Mountains, the Andes, all are clearly visible and beautiful from the ISS. Snow-covered peaks stand out against lower terrain. Rivers are visible as dark lines across the landscape. The Amazon River, the Nile, the Yangtze, major rivers show up clearly in satellite imagery and in photographs taken from the ISS. Deserts appear as tan or red areas, sometimes with visible dunes and patterns created by wind. The Sahara Desert, the Arabian Desert, the Gobi Desert, all are distinctly visible from orbit. Forests appear as dark green areas.
The Amazon rainforest is a massive, dark green area visible from space. Deforestation is also visible. Areas where forests have been cleared appear as lighter colors than surrounding forest. Ice sheets and glaciers appear white and are strikingly visible from orbit. The ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica are visible from the ISS, as are glaciers in mountains. Changes in glaciers and ice sheets over time can be observed from repeated satellite imagery. Cities appear as bright points or areas of concentrated light at night. The extent of human civilization is revealed by nighttime cities.
Lights. The dark areas between cities show the vast areas of Earth that remain undeveloped. The atmosphere appears as a thin blue line against the blackness of space. The thinness of the atmosphere is striking from this perspective. The atmospheric layer that protects all life on Earth appears delicate and fragile. Astronauts take thousands of photographs from the ISS. These images are shared on social media and are available to the public. The images inspire people by showing Earth's beauty and also by revealing Earth's vulnerability. Photographs of environmental destruction, deforestation, desertification, pollution are visible from the ISS and can inspire action to protect Earth's environment. The view from the ISS has become a tool for climate scientists. Repeated imagery from the ISS reveals changes in glaciers, sea ice, snow cover, and other features affected by climate change. The ISS provides continuity in Earth observation, maintaining a long-term record of changes occurring to our planet. Let me discuss the radiation environment of the ISS and what it means for astronaut health. The ISS orbits above most of Earth's protective magnetosphere. The magnetosphere shields Earth from solar radiation and cosmic radiation. Outside the magnetosphere, exposure to radiation is higher than on Earth's surface. Cosmic rays, high-energy particles from outside the solar system, constantly rain down on the ISS. Galactic cosmic rays consist primarily of protons and heavier atomic nuclei. Solar radiation, particles emitted by the sun, particularly during solar storms, also exposes the ISS to radiation. The radiation exposure at the ISS is several times higher than the exposure experienced by people on Earth's surface. For a 6-month mission on the ISS, an astronaut might receive a radiation dose equivalent to several years of exposure on Earth. This radiation exposure is not high enough to cause acute radiation sickness, but it's a health concern for long-duration spaceflight. Radiation can damage DNA, potentially increasing the risk of cancer. It can also affect the nervous system and eyes. Research on the ISS is helping understand radiation effects and develop shielding and countermeasures. Understanding radiation effects is crucial for future missions to the Moon and Mars, where astronauts will receive even higher radiation exposure than at the ISS. Shielding against cosmic radiation is difficult. Some shielding materials are effective against solar radiation, but less effective against cosmic rays. The best shielding for cosmic rays is mass, dense material that cosmic rays must pass through. However, adding shielding increases weight and cost. For future Mars missions lasting 2 to 3 years, radiation exposure could be substantial. Understanding how to protect astronauts from radiation while keeping spacecraft weight and cost reasonable is an important area of research. Let me discuss the cost-benefit analysis of the ISS, a topic that's often debated. The ISS is expensive. Estimates of the total cost to build, launch, and operate the ISS run into hundreds of billions of dollars. Some critics argue that this money could be better spent on other priorities. However, proponents point out that the benefits of the ISS include scientific discoveries, technological development, and preparation for future space exploration. The research conducted on the ISS has contributed to improved medicines, new materials, and better understanding of biology and physics. The ISS also serves diplomatic purposes. International cooperation on the ISS has created bonds between nations and has shown what humans can accomplish when working together peacefully. Compared to other major government expenditures, the ISS is not extraordinarily expensive. The annual budget for the ISS is roughly $3 to $4 billion across all participating nations. This is less than the atmospheric layer that protects all life on Earth appears delicate and fragile. Astronauts take thousands of photographs from the ISS. These images are shared on social media and are available to the public. The images inspire people by showing Earth's beauty and also by revealing Earth's vulnerability. Photographs of environmental destruction, deforestation, desertification, pollution are visible from the ISS and can inspire action to protect Earth's environment. The view from the ISS has become a tool for climate scientists. Repeated imagery from the ISS reveals changes in glaciers, sea ice, snow cover, and other features affected by climate change. The ISS provides continuity in Earth observation, maintaining a long-term record of changes occurring to our planet. Let me discuss the radiation environment of the ISS and what it means for astronaut health. The ISS orbits above most of Earth's protective magnetosphere. The magnetosphere shields Earth from solar radiation and cosmic radiation. Outside the magnetosphere, exposure to radiation is higher than on Earth's surface. Cosmic rays, high-energy particles from outside the solar system, constantly rain down on the ISS. Galactic cosmic rays consist primarily of protons and heavier atomic nuclei. Solar radiation, particles emitted by the sun, particularly during solar storms, also exposes the ISS to radiation. The radiation exposure at the ISS is several times higher than the exposure experienced by people on Earth's surface. For a 6-month mission on the ISS, an astronaut might receive a radiation dose equivalent to several years of exposure on Earth. This radiation exposure is not high enough to cause acute radiation sickness, but it's a health concern for long-duration spaceflight. Radiation can damage DNA, potentially increasing the risk of cancer. It can also affect the nervous system and eyes. Research on the ISS is helping understand radiation effects and develop shielding and countermeasures. Understanding radiation effects is crucial for future missions to the Moon and Mars, where astronauts will receive even higher radiation exposure than at the ISS. Shielding against cosmic radiation is difficult. Some shielding materials are effective against solar radiation, but less effective against cosmic rays. The best shielding for cosmic rays is mass, dense material that cosmic rays must pass through. However, adding shielding increases weight and cost. For future Mars missions lasting 2 to 3 years, radiation exposure could be substantial. Understanding how to protect astronauts from radiation while keeping spacecraft weight and cost reasonable is an important area of research. Let me discuss the cost-benefit analysis of the ISS, a topic that's often debated. The ISS is expensive. Estimates of the total cost to build, launch, and operate the ISS run into hundreds of billions of dollars. Some critics argue that this money could be better spent on other priorities. However, proponents point out that the benefits of the ISS include scientific discoveries, technological development, and preparation for future space exploration. The research conducted on the ISS has contributed to improved medicines, new materials, and better understanding of biology and physics. The ISS also serves diplomatic purposes. International cooperation on the ISS has created bonds between nations and has shown what humans can accomplish when working together peacefully. Compared to other major government expenditures, the ISS is not extraordinarily expensive. The annual budget for the ISS is roughly $3 to $4 billion across all participating nations. This is less than the budget of many government agencies and is a small fraction of national budgets. The question of whether the ISS is worth the cost is fundamentally a question of values. If you believe that scientific research, technological development, and human exploration are valuable, then the ISS provides significant value. If you believe that spending should be focused on solving immediate problems on Earth, then the cost might seem too high. Ultimately, the ISS is funded because participating nations believe the benefits justify the costs. When those judgments change, as they might, around 2030 when major agreements expire, the future of the ISS will be reconsidered. Let me discuss international cooperation on the ISS in more detail, specifically looking at how different countries contribute. Russia contributes the Zarya and Zvezda modules, which provide critical propulsion, power, and attitude control. Russian Soyuz spacecraft regularly transport crews. The Russians also provide technical expertise and cosmonauts who contribute to crew operations and scientific work. Russia's contributions are essential. Without the Russian segment, the ISS could not function. The United States contributes the largest number of modules, including Destiny, Tranquility, and Harmony. American astronauts constitute roughly half the crew at any time. American funding is substantial, and American companies provide much of the resupply and crew transport through SpaceX's commercial spacecraft. Europe contributes this Columbus module and the Automated Transfer Vehicle, ATV, for cargo resupply. European astronauts fly on the ISS regularly, contributing their expertise and conducting European experiments. Japan contributes the Kibo module, one of the largest laboratory modules. Japanese astronauts participate in ISS crews and conduct experiments using Japanese facilities. Canada contributes the Canadarm, a robotic arm essential for assembly and maintenance of the station. Canadian astronauts have conducted important work on the ISS. Brazil contributes to agreements around Earth observation from the ISS. China has not been part of the ISS partnership, primarily due to political restrictions, but has developed its own space station. This international partnership is remarkable. In an era of geopolitical tensions, the ISS has remained a symbol of peaceful cooperation and demonstrates what nations can accomplish when they work together. Let me discuss one more aspect of the ISS: the food that crew members eat and how food is adapted for the space environment. Food on the ISS must be prepared and packaged to survive launch and to remain edible during 6 months in orbit. Many food items are freeze-dried, where water is removed through a special process. Freeze-dried food is light and compact and can be rehydrated by adding water for consumption. Other food items are thermostabilized, heated to kill microorganisms so they can be stored without refrigeration. Canned goods and pouches of thermostabilized food are common on the ISS. Some fresh food is available, particularly fruits and vegetables, delivered on resupply missions. However, fresh food is limited because it takes up valuable cargo space on vehicles that have limited capacity. Beverages present a particular challenge. Water is available from the water recovery system, but astronauts often prefer flavored beverages. Coffee, tea, and fruit drinks are consumed on the ISS. Liquid beverages must be drunk through tubes or squeeze bottles because free-floating liquids would form droplets and could damage equipment. Eating in microgravity requires careful technique. Crew members must prevent food particles from floating away and potentially damaging equipment. They use napkins to catch crumbs and carefully manage their food consumption. Despite the limitations, astronauts report that food quality on the ISS has improved significantly over the years. Modern food preparation and packaging has made ISS food more appealing and varied than it was in earlier years. Food is sometimes supplemented by specially prepared meals sent from Earth for particular occasions. Holidays, for example. The food experience on the ISS, while different from Earth, is part of the daily routine that maintains crew morale and provides comfort in an otherwise unusual environment. Finally, let me reflect on what the ISS means for children and young people growing up in the era of the ISS. For children in the 2000s and 2010s, the ISS has always been there. They've grown up seeing pictures of the station, knowing that humans are continuously present in space. This has normalized space exploration in a way that perhaps hasn't been true before. Astronauts have become educators. They conduct experiments designed for educational purposes. They communicate via social media. They inspire young people to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The ISS has inspired a generation to think about space as accessible, as a place where humans work and live, not just a distant realm reserved for the most elite space programs. This inspiration might lead to a career in space exploration for some. It might lead to other careers in science or engineering, or it might simply provide perspective and wonder about humanity's place in the universe. The ISS has demonstrated that international cooperation is possible, that humans from different nations can work together peacefully toward common goals. This is a lesson that extends beyond space exploration to how we might address other global challenges. The existence of the ISS, this remarkable machine in orbit, continuously inhabited by humans, conducting research, advancing human knowledge, is a statement about human potential. It says that we are capable of extraordinary achievements when we commit resources, expertise, and determination to a goal. Let me discuss some notable ISS expeditions and missions in more detail, because each mission is a story of human achievement and scientific progress. Expedition 1, which arrived in November 2000, marked the first permanent human presence in space since Mir. 3 crew members, William Shepard, Yuri Gidzenko, and Sergei Krikalev, launched on Soyuz TM-31 and docked to the ISS. They spent over 4 months on the station, conducting initial experiments and preparing systems for future crews. The command center on Earth coordinated their activities, providing support for every task. The crew maintained the station, conducted experiments, and documented their experience in a way that inspired people worldwide. Expedition 5 arrived in June 2002 and included Peggy Whitson, who would become the astronaut with the most time in space. During this expedition, Whitson conducted research in the Destiny Laboratory module, demonstrating the value of the laboratory for scientific work. She worked with fellow crew members on experiments in materials science, protein crystal growth, and other fields. Expedition 10, which arrived in October 2004, included Bill MacArthur and Valery Tokarev. During this expedition, the crew conducted numerous spacewalks to repair and maintain external systems. They successfully replaced batteries, deployed new equipment, and repaired systems, critical work that maintained the station's viability. Expedition 15, which arrived in May 2007, was notable because it was the first expedition to launch on a Soyuz that had been extensively upgraded. The crew conducted extensive research and performed multiple spacewalks to install new solar arrays that significantly increased the station's power generation capacity. These new arrays were crucial for supporting the growing complement of experiments on the ISS. Expedition 26, which arrived in December 2010, included Scott Kelly and Alexander Kaleri. During this expedition, a carbon dioxide removal system malfunctioned, creating a critical problem for crew safety. The crew improvised a solution using materials available on the station, creating a system that removed CO2 from the atmosphere. This improvisation, which involved engineering on the fly in an environment where outside help was limited, demonstrated the ingenuity and competence of ISS crews. Expedition 35, which arrived in May 2013, included Chris Hadfield as commander. Hadfield became famous for his educational outreach, creating videos from the ISS, including a music video of David Bowie's Space Oddity that became a viral sensation. His efforts to inspire people about space exploration reached millions worldwide. Each expedition adds to the accumulated knowledge and experience of long-duration spaceflight. Each crew contributes to understanding how humans can live and work in space. Each mission pushes the boundaries of science and technology. Now let me discuss the process of launching to the ISS and docking, because it's a complex and remarkable achievement. A Soyuz spacecraft launched to the ISS begins with a vertical liftoff from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Soyuz rocket, which has been used for human spaceflight since 1967, is one of the most reliable launch vehicles ever built. Its track record of successful human flights is unmatched by other launch vehicles. The ascent to orbit takes about 9 minutes. During this time, the rocket's first stage burns and then separates. The second stage ignites and accelerates the spacecraft further. Finally, the third stage places the Soyuz spacecraft into orbit. Once in orbit, the Soyuz spacecraft is separated from the launch vehicle. The spacecraft's solar panels deploy, and the life support systems are activated. The crew begins checking systems and preparing for the rendezvous with the ISS. The rendezvous with the ISS is a complex procedure that involves gradually raising the Soyuz's orbit until it matches the ISS's orbit. During the rendezvous, the Soyuz carefully approaches the ISS, maintaining precise distances and velocities. The rendezvous can be performed either autonomously by the spacecraft's onboard computer or manually by the Soyuz pilot, with guidance from mission control. The most critical moment is docking. The Soyuz must align precisely with a docking port on the ISS and establish a soft contact before gradually moving into the port and locking down. Docking mechanisms create an airtight seal, preventing air from leaking out of the ISS. Once docked, the crew prepares for transfer. The airlock between the Soyuz and the ISS is equalized in pressure, hatches are opened, and the crew enters the ISS. After months on the ISS, the incoming crew replaces the outgoing crew, who prepare the Soyuz for return. The return to Earth is equally complex. The Soyuz undocks from the ISS. Thrusters fire to reduce velocity, and the spacecraft begins to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. Heat is generated by friction with the atmosphere. Temperatures reach several thousand degrees Celsius. The heat shield protects the crew. As the spacecraft slows, parachutes deploy to further slow the descent. The final retro rockets fire just before landing to cushion the impact. The spacecraft lands on the steppes of Kazakhstan, and recovery teams retrieve the crew. The journey from ISS to landing takes about 3.5 hours. Let me discuss the role of the ISS in supporting Hubble Space Telescope maintenance and how the two observatories complement each other. The Hubble Space Telescope was launched in 1990. In 1993, astronauts on Space Shuttle Endeavour conducted a spacewalk to install corrective optics, fixing a flaw in Hubble's mirror that had initially compromised its vision. This repair mission was a triumph of human spaceflight and demonstrated the value of humans in space for complex tasks. Subsequent shuttle missions maintained and upgraded Hubble multiple times over the years. New instruments were installed, aging components were replaced, and Hubble's capabilities were enhanced. All of this maintenance was performed by astronauts who docked with Hubble and conducted spacewalks to perform the maintenance work. When the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011, Hubble no longer had a way to be serviced by humans. However, the ISS remains in orbit and continues to be serviced. The ISS and Hubble are complementary observatories. Hubble observes distant galaxies and objects, while the ISS observes Earth and conducts research in the microgravity environment. If Hubble develops problems in the future that can't be fixed robotically, potential rescue missions using ISS-based spacecraft have been discussed as a possibility. Though such a mission would be challenging and risky, the existence of the ISS provides a potential backup for Hubble support if needed. The ISS and Hubble represent different approaches to space exploration. One focuses on Earth-based research and long-term human presence, while the other focuses on observing the distant universe. Both are valuable and contribute to human knowledge. Let me discuss the commercial integration of the ISS and how private companies are becoming involved in space stations. For decades, access to space and operation of space stations was the exclusive domain of government space agencies. The ISS was built and operated by government agencies from multiple nations. However, this is beginning to change. SpaceX has developed the Crew Dragon spacecraft, which now regularly carries crews to the ISS under contract to NASA. Instead of NASA owning and operating the spacecraft, NASA purchases crew transport services from SpaceX. This commercial model is changing how humans access space. Axiom Space is developing commercial modules that will be attached to the ISS. These modules will provide additional laboratory space for paying customers. Eventually, these modules could potentially separate from the ISS and become an independent commercial space station. Bigelow Aerospace has developed expandable space station modules. These inflatable structures can be launched compactly and then expanded once in orbit. Bigelow's technology could potentially be used for commercial space stations. Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, has shown interest in space station development and has proposed various concepts for orbital facilities. These commercial developments suggest that the future of space stations might involve a mix of government-operated facilities, like the NASA portion of the ISS, and privately operated commercial facilities. This could increase competition, drive down costs, and accelerate the pace of innovation. The transition to private space stations won't happen overnight, but it's clear that the era of government-exclusive access to space is ending. Commercial operators are becoming increasingly important players in space activities. Let me discuss what we've learned about microgravity effects on the human body and what this means for longer duration missions. Astronauts in space lose bone density at a rate of about 1 to 2% per month. This is dramatic compared to normal bone loss on Earth, which is typically less than 1% per year. Certain bones, particularly in the spine and hips, are most affected. If not addressed, this bone loss could be serious for astronauts on long-duration missions. Muscle atrophy is another effect. Without gravity pulling on muscles, muscles weaken over time. Crew members on the ISS spend about 2 hours per day exercising to combat muscle atrophy. But even with exercise, some muscle loss occurs. The cardiovascular system adapts to microgravity. The heart has less work to do without gravity pulling blood downward, so it becomes less efficient. When astronauts return to Earth, their cardiovascular system has to readapt, which can cause orthostatic intolerance, difficulty regulating blood pressure when standing. Vision changes have been observed in some astronauts. The cause is not completely understood, but increased intracranial pressure in microgravity might be responsible. Astronauts report temporary vision changes, usually resolved after return to Earth. Fluid redistribution occurs in microgravity. Without gravity, body fluids don't naturally drain toward the feet as they do on Earth. Instead, fluids redistribute toward the head. This causes a puffy-faced appearance and can affect sinus function and intracranial pressure. Understanding these effects is crucial for planning long-duration missions to the Moon and Mars. For missions lasting years, more dramatic countermeasures might be needed than are currently used on the ISS. Artificial gravity created by rotating a spacecraft is one possibility, though it adds complexity and engineering challenges. Research on the ISS investigating these physiological effects is directly applicable to developing techniques for supporting humans on long-duration space missions. Let me discuss the role of robotics on the ISS and how robotic systems assist with assembly and maintenance. The Space Shuttle brought the Canadarm, a robotic manipulator arm, to the ISS. This arm, measuring 17.6 meters long, could be controlled remotely by astronauts inside the station or by operators on Earth. The Canadarm was essential for assembling the ISS, moving modules into position, and performing various maintenance tasks. The Canadarm was eventually replaced by the Space Station Remote Manipulator System, SSRMS, a Canadian-built robotic arm specifically designed for the ISS. The SSRMS is more sophisticated than the Canadarm and has proven essential for ISS operations. Additionally, Dextra, a two-armed robotic system, was added to the station to perform more delicate tasks. Dextra can manipulate small components and perform work that requires fine motor control. These robotic systems extend human capability, allowing work to be performed remotely. They allow maintenance and assembly to be conducted without requiring a spacewalk every time. However, robotic systems have limitations. They require precise programming and sometimes experience problems that require human intervention. The complexity of robotic systems is significant, and their development requires tremendous engineering expertise. The combination of human astronauts and robotic systems provides the best capability for maintaining and operating the ISS. Humans provide flexibility, creativity, and the ability to handle unexpected situations. Robots provide capabilities for remote manipulation and for performing repetitive tasks with precision. Let me discuss the communication between the ISS and Earth, because maintaining contact is essential for crew safety and mission success. The ISS is in constant communication with Mission Control on Earth. NASA's Mission Control in Houston, Johnson Space Center, coordinates American operations. Russian Mission Control outside Moscow coordinates Russian operations. Both centers work in coordination to maintain ISS operations. Communication between the ISS and Earth occurs via radio links. The ISS is equipped with systems to transmit and receive communications on multiple frequencies. Ground stations around the world receive signals from the ISS as it orbits overhead. Because the ISS orbits Earth, it's not always in communication with mission control at any given location. Communications are possible only when the station passes over certain regions. This requires careful scheduling of communications and planning of activities so that mission control can provide guidance when the station is in communication range. In recent years, advances in communication technology have improved the bandwidth available for ISS communications. Higher bandwidth communications allow for video calls between crew and family, which contributes to crew morale and mental health. Mission Control provides real-time guidance for complex procedures, monitors crew health, and coordinates scientific activities. The support from Earth is essential for the crew's ability to operate the station safely and effectively. Let me discuss the future of human spaceflight and how the ISS experience is preparing humanity for the next era. NASA's Artemis program aims to return humans to the moon. The first missions will establish a lunar presence, build habitats, and prepare for long-term moon exploration. The ISS has been and continues to be a platform for developing technologies and approaches that will be used on the moon. The Lunar Gateway, a planned space station in lunar orbit, will serve as a hub for lunar exploration. It will use life support and propulsion systems adapted from ISS technology. Crew rotation procedures developed for the ISS will be adapted for lunar missions. Eventually, humans will travel to Mars. This will require spacecraft capable of sustaining humans for years. It will require living quarters in space, methods for growing food, systems for generating oxygen and water, and techniques for managing the physiological effects of long-duration spaceflight. All of these capabilities are being developed or tested on the ISS. The ISS is the proving ground for the technologies and techniques that will enable human exploration beyond Earth. A Mars mission will be the culmination of everything we learned from the ISS. The journey to Mars will require multiple times the duration of an ISS expedition. Astronauts will be completely out of communication with Earth during portions of the journey due to communication lag. They will be dependent on systems that function reliably with minimal possibility of resupply or repair. The ISS is showing us that humans can live and work in space for extended periods. It's showing us how to manage the challenges. It's preparing us for the next giant step, human exploration of Mars. Looking further into the future, humans might establish permanent settlements on the Moon and Mars. Space stations might become commonplace, with multiple facilities in orbit supporting various activities. Humans might travel between Earth, the Moon, Mars, and other destinations as routinely as we travel between cities today. The ISS is the beginning of this future. It's the foundation upon which all future space activities will be built. Finally, let me reflect on the significance of the ISS as a moment in human history. The ISS represents a moment where humanity declared itself capable of permanently leaving Earth. It's not a permanent colony yet, but it's a permanent outpost, a place where humans work and live, even if temporarily, beyond the planet that gave them birth. The ISS represents a moment where international cooperation overcame Cold War animosity and worked toward a common goal. It shows that nations can cooperate peacefully in space, that we can work together toward common purposes. The ISS represents a commitment to science and exploration. In an era where much attention and resources are devoted to immediate concerns, the ISS represents the belief that understanding the universe and expanding human capability is also important. The ISS represents hope for the future. It shows that humans can achieve remarkable things when we work together. It shows that we have the capability to expand beyond Earth. It inspires people to believe that humanity's future extends far beyond the bounds of this planet. For the astronauts and cosmonauts who live and work aboard the ISS, it's a profound experience. They see Earth from a perspective that most humans never will. They work in an environment more alien than anywhere on Earth. They contribute to science and exploration. They represent humanity's aspirations and capabilities. The ISS will not exist forever. Eventually, it will be deorbited or repurposed or replaced. But its legacy will continue. The science conducted aboard it will benefit humanity for centuries. The technologies developed for the ISS will be refined and applied to other purposes. The international cooperation that built it will serve as a model for future ventures. The ISS is humanity at its best: curious, ambitious, capable of working together, determined to expand the boundaries of the possible. It's a remarkable achievement, and it's something to take pride in as a species. Looking up at the night sky, if you know when and where to look, you can see the ISS passing overhead. It's a bright point of light moving steadily across the sky, faster than any airplane. Watching it, you're seeing the product of human ingenuity, international cooperation, and decades of effort to create a permanent presence in space. The ISS is more than a laboratory or a tool for scientific research. It's a symbol of human potential and human hope. It's a reminder that we can accomplish extraordinary things when we commit ourselves to a goal. Let me provide more specific examples of scientific discoveries made on the ISS that have had practical applications. Research on protein crystallization on the ISS led to improved understanding of the enzyme protease. This enzyme is present in HIV and is a target for antiviral drugs. Better understanding of its structure led to better drug design. This research directly contributed to improvements in HIV treatment, a disease that affects millions of people worldwide. Research on combustion in microgravity revealed flame behavior that had never been observed on Earth. These findings have applications for spacecraft fire safety and for optimizing industrial processes. Understanding how flames behave in microgravity informs how we design and operate spacecraft systems. Research on stem cells in microgravity revealed new properties of these cells and how they behave without gravity. This research has potential applications for understanding cellular development and for regenerative medicine. It might eventually lead to better techniques for growing organs and tissues for transplantation. Research on bone loss countermeasures on the ISS has led to more effective exercise protocols and potentially pharmaceutical interventions for preventing bone loss. These techniques are not only valuable for astronauts, but might also be useful for treating osteoporosis and other bone conditions in patients on Earth. Research on plant growth in microgravity revealed how plants develop and orient themselves without gravity. This research is relevant to growing food in space, but it also contributes to fundamental understanding of plant biology. How plants know which way is up without gravity is a profound question that this research helps answer. Each of these discoveries emerged from experiments conducted on the ISS and has contributed to human knowledge and practical applications on Earth. Let me discuss the technological advances that have been tested and refined on the ISS. Three-dimensional printing in space has been tested on the ISS. Printers designed to work in microgravity have successfully manufactured parts from plastic and metal. The ability to manufacture items in space could reduce the need for resupply missions and could enable manufacturing of items in space that would be impossible to make on Earth due to gravity. Advanced life support systems have been tested and refined on the ISS. The systems that recycle air, recycle water, and manage waste have been continuously improved. These systems are crucial for long-duration spaceflight and will be essential for future missions to the Moon and Mars. Robotic systems have been tested and improved on the ISS. The capability to perform complex tasks with robotic arms and other robotic systems has been demonstrated. These capabilities will be extended in future space activities. Virtual reality and augmented reality systems have been tested on the ISS. These technologies have applications for training, for scientific visualization, and for communication between the ISS and Earth. Training for future space missions is increasingly using virtual reality to simulate spaceflight experiences. Advanced propulsion systems have been tested on the ISS. Ion engines and other advanced propulsion technologies have been evaluated for use on spacecraft and space stations. Each of these technological advances, tested on the ISS, contributes to expanding human capability in space. Let me discuss the educational and inspirational aspects of the ISS more deeply. The ISS has inspired millions of people, particularly young people, to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Astronauts aboard the ISS have created educational videos, conducted experiments designed for students, and communicated directly with schools and the public. Some astronauts have become particularly known for their educational outreach. Chris Hadfield became famous for his detailed explanations of life in space, his educational videos, and his enthusiasm for sharing the experience of spaceflight with the public. His book, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, became a bestseller and spread his message of pursuing excellence to millions of readers. Jessica Meir and Christina Koch's all-female spacewalk in 2019 sent a powerful message about women in space and about women in STEM fields more broadly. Young women watching this historic moment saw that women could do anything men could do, even in the most challenging environment. The photos from the ISS have become iconic images that inspire environmental awareness. Photographs of Earth's beauty, of the thin atmosphere, of natural disasters visible from orbit. These images remind us of the preciousness and fragility of our planet. Schools have used ISS passes, events when the ISS passes overhead and is visible to the naked eye, to teach students about space, physics, and astronomy. Students who see the ISS pass overhead and know that humans are living there, working there, conducting science there, are touched by the reality of human spaceflight in a way that reading about it in a textbook cannot achieve. The ISS has become part of popular culture. References to the ISS appear in movies, television shows, and books. The station is recognized by a large portion of the public as an important human achievement. This inspirational value might not be quantifiable in the same way as scientific discoveries or technological advances, but it's real and significant. Inspiring the next generation of scientists and engineers is an investment in humanity's future. Let me discuss the logistics of keeping the ISS operational and resupplied. The ISS is resupplied regularly by cargo vehicles. Russian Progress spacecraft arrive several times per year with supplies, equipment, fuel and replacement parts. American cargo vehicles from SpaceX Dragon and Northrop Grumman Cygnus have joined the resupply effort, providing redundancy and additional capacity. European ATV vehicles and Japanese HTV vehicles also provide cargo resupply. This multinational resupply system ensures that the ISS is regularly restocked with essential items. Resupply vehicles carry food, water, oxygen, replacement equipment, scientific instruments, and fuel. The variety of items requires careful planning and scheduling. The launch of each resupply vehicle is a complex operation involving coordination between agencies, coordination of launch schedules, and careful planning of what items are most critical to send. The failure of a single resupply vehicle is not catastrophic if it occurs occasionally, because the ISS can draw on stored supplies. However, regular resupply is essential for long-term operations. The logistics of the ISS represent a remarkable supply chain. Items manufactured in various countries are combined and loaded into spacecraft, which are launched to orbit, where they're received and unloaded by crew members. This supply chain spans continents and the gap between Earth and space. Let me discuss some specific astronauts who have become notable for their contributions to the ISS. Peggy Whitson is the American astronaut with the most cumulative time in space, over 666 days across multiple missions. She spent more time in space than anyone else from the United States. Her career has spanned multiple decades, and she's remained active in astronaut corps despite her age, continuing to contribute to human spaceflight. Valery Polyakov, a Russian cosmonaut, holds the record for the longest single mission in space, 438 days aboard Mir. Though this record predates the ISS, Polyakov's achievement demonstrated that humans could survive extended periods in space, a crucial finding for ISS operations. John Glenn, the American astronaut who was the first American to orbit Earth in 1962, returned to space as a space shuttle astronaut in 1998 at age 77. Though he didn't visit the ISS, his return to space as an older astronaut demonstrated that age and spaceflight are not necessarily incompatible. Sunita Williams, an American astronaut of Indian descent, has become one of the most accomplished ISS astronauts, having spent considerable time aboard the station and having conducted numerous spacewalks. She's become a prominent public figure and spokesperson for human spaceflight. Reed Wiseman, an American astronaut and test pilot, commanded Expedition 41 and became known for his detailed descriptions of life in space on social media, making spaceflight accessible to the public through his communications. These astronauts represent the best of human space exploration: competent, dedicated, communicative, and committed to advancing human capability in space. Let me discuss the unique perspective that astronauts gain from being in space and how this changes their understanding of Earth and humanity. Astronauts consistently report that viewing Earth from the ISS is profoundly moving, seeing the planet as a unified whole, seeing the thin atmosphere that protects all life, seeing the clouds and weather systems, seeing the night lights of cities. All of this creates a perspective shift. This perspective shift often leads astronauts to become advocates for environmental protection. They see the fragility of the atmosphere. They see areas of deforestation. They see pollution. They see the limited space on which all humanity lives. This perspective, gained from seeing Earth from above, often motivates astronauts to speak out about environmental issues and the need to protect our planet. The overview effect, the cognitive shift that occurs when seeing Earth from space, is described by many astronauts as life-changing. It creates a sense of unity with all humanity and a recognition that the divisions that seem important on Earth are invisible from space. This perspective is valuable not just for the astronauts who experience it, but for humanity as a whole. When astronauts share their perspective through writing, interviews, and public appearances, they communicate this overview effect to others, helping spread the perspective shift to people who cannot themselves travel to space. The ISS is thus not just a scientific laboratory, it's a platform for gaining perspective on our planet and our humanity. Let me discuss the international treaties and agreements that govern the ISS and what they mean for the future of space activities. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 is the fundamental international agreement governing space activities. It establishes that space is the province of all humankind, that activities in space should benefit all nations, and that weapons of mass destruction cannot be placed in space. Over 100 nations have signed this treaty. The ISS Intergovernmental Agreement, signed in 1998, established the framework for cooperation on the ISS. It designates each nation's segment of the station and establishes principles for how decisions are made and how benefits are shared. These agreements represent a remarkable commitment to peaceful cooperation in space. During the Cold War, space was a competition. The Outer Space Treaty transformed space into a domain where peaceful cooperation is the norm. However, these treaties are based on assumptions made in the 1960s and 1990s. As space activities become more commercial, as more nations develop spacefaring capability, and as space resources become potentially valuable, the adequacy of these treaties may be questioned. Future agreements may be needed to address emerging issues like space mining, space traffic management, and debris mitigation. The ISS operates under the framework of these treaties and demonstrates how international agreements can enable cooperation on ambitious projects. Let me discuss the end-of-life planning for the ISS and what happens after the station is deorbited. The ISS is currently planned to operate until at least 2030, with discussions ongoing about possible extension to 2031 or beyond. However, eventually, the station will reach the end of its useful life. When that time comes, the station must be deorbited, brought down from orbit in a controlled manner. Deorbiting the ISS is a massive engineering challenge. The station, weighing over 420,000 kilograms, cannot simply be allowed to fall randomly. An uncontrolled deorbit could result in debris falling on populated areas, potentially causing damage and loss of life. A controlled deorbit would involve using thrusters or docking spacecraft to gradually lower the ISS orbit. As the orbit decays, the station would eventually re-enter Earth's atmosphere at a high angle. Most of the station would burn up due to friction with the atmosphere. Large pieces might survive re-entry, but they would be directed into an ocean where no one lives, minimizing risk to people on Earth. The deorbit operation would likely take place over several weeks or months, requiring careful coordination and execution. Alternatively, instead of being deorbited completely, modules of the ISS might be preserved. Some modules could potentially be repurposed as components of new space stations or reused in other ways. Commercial operators might purchase ISS modules and operate them as parts of commercial space stations. The end of the ISS as a government-operated international facility would mark the end of an era, but it would not mark the end of human presence in space. Commercial and national space stations would likely follow, continuing the tradition of permanently crewed orbital facilities. The legacy of the ISS would continue long after its physical removal from orbit. The knowledge gained, The technologies developed, the international partnerships forged, and the inspiration provided would all contribute to humanity's future in space. Let me now bring this discussion to a conclusion by reflecting on what the ISS means in the broader context of human history. The ISS is one of humanity's most remarkable achievements. It's a monument to human ingenuity, cooperation, and determination. It's a facility where humans live, work, and conduct research in an environment utterly alien to anything humans evolved for. The ISS represents a moment in human history where we have transcended Earth. Not completely, we still live primarily on Earth, and that will likely remain true for centuries. But we have established a permanent presence beyond Earth. Humans are currently in space, working, studying, and living. This is a remarkable fact that we sometimes take for granted. The ISS represents a moment where international cooperation overcame geopolitical tensions to achieve something greater than any single nation could achieve. Russians and Americans, Europeans and Japanese and Canadians work together on the ISS every day. They have done so through times of tension on Earth. The station stands as proof that humans can cooperate peacefully in space even when our governments have disagreements. The ISS represents humanity's commitment to science and exploration. In an era where many resources go to immediate concerns, the ISS represents an investment in understanding the universe, in advancing human knowledge, in testing human capability. The ISS is beautiful. Looking at pictures of the ISS in orbit, with solar arrays deployed, with Earth visible in the background, it's a beautiful structure. But more than its physical beauty, it's beautiful in what it represents. Human aspiration, human achievement, human hope for the future. For generations to come, the ISS will be remembered as one of the defining achievements of the early 21st century. Future space travelers will build on the foundation established by the ISS. Future scientists will build on discoveries made on the ISS. Future historians will recognize the ISS as a crucial step in humanity's expansion into space. The ISS is not the endpoint of human space exploration. It's a waypoint, a platform, a stepping stone, but it's an extraordinarily important waypoint. Without the ISS, we would not be as far along in understanding how humans can live in space, what scientific research is possible in microgravity, and how international cooperation can achieve great things. The ISS is not the endpoint of human space exploration. It's a waypoint, a platform, a stepping stone, but it's an extraordinarily important waypoint. Without the ISS, we would not be as far along in understanding how humans can live in space, what scientific research is possible in microgravity, and how international cooperation can achieve great things. The ISS will eventually be deorbited or replaced, but its legacy will persist. It will be remembered as the station that showed that humans belong in space, that we have the capability to live beyond Earth, and that we can work together to achieve great things. Let me discuss how you can actually see the ISS from Earth, because this is something that anyone can experience without any special equipment. The ISS orbits Earth at an inclination of 51.6 degrees, which means it passes over most populated areas. Depending on where you live and the time of year, the ISS might pass over your location several times per week or multiple times per day. When the ISS passes overhead, it's visible to the naked eye as a bright point of light moving across the sky. It's faster than an airplane. It moves from horizon to horizon in just a few minutes. It's brighter than any star and is often brighter than the brightest planets visible in the night sky. The best times to see the ISS are in the hours just before sunrise or in the hours just after sunset. At these times, the ISS is in sunlight because it's high in altitude, while the ground is still in darkness. This creates the conditions where the station is visible and bright against the dark sky. There are websites and apps that predict when the ISS will pass overhead for your location. You can search for ISS tracking and find tools that will tell you the exact time of pass over your location, which direction to look, and how high in the sky the ISS will reach. Seeing the ISS pass overhead is a remarkable experience. Knowing that the point of light you're seeing is actually a space laboratory with humans inside, that it's traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, that it's been continuously inhabited for over 2 decades. There's something profound about that experience. Many people who see the ISS pass overhead report a sense of wonder and awe. It connects them directly to human space exploration in a way that reading about it doesn't. It makes space exploration tangible and real. Schools and communities have organized ISS watching parties where people gather to see the station pass overhead. These events create a sense of community and shared wonder at human achievement. Let me also discuss the sounds associated with the ISS, or rather, the lack of sounds. In space, there is no air, and sound requires a medium to travel through. So, outside the ISS, in the vacuum of space, there is no sound. An astronaut performing a spacewalk will hear nothing from the external environment. All communication with other spacewalkers and with the station is conducted through suit radios. Inside the ISS, there is air, and sound propagates normally. The station is quite noisy, actually, with fans running continuously to circulate air for temperature control and life support. Equipment hums and vibrates. Crew members have reported that the ambient noise level is significant enough that communication requires raising their voices. When the station is shown in movies or television, sound is often added for dramatic effect, but in reality, the external environment is utterly silent. This silence, combined with the view of Earth and stars, contributes to the profound experience of being in space. The sensory environment is different from anything on Earth, silent, weightless, with a perspective on Earth that few humans will ever experience. Let me discuss the role of the ISS in climate science and Earth observation. The ISS carries cameras and instruments designed to observe Earth. These tools provide valuable data for climate science and environmental monitoring. Repeat imagery from the ISS has been used to document changes in glaciers over time. Glaciers that have been shrinking due to climate change are visible in repeated photographs. Sea ice extents have been monitored. Changes in vegetation patterns have been tracked. During natural disasters, ISS imagery has been used for damage assessment. After hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods, astronauts aboard the ISS have provided images of affected areas, contributing to damage assessment and relief efforts. The ISS serves as a platform for remote sensing, using cameras and instruments to observe Earth from a distance. While satellites also provide this function, the human perspective and the ability of astronauts to point cameras at specific areas of interest provides unique value. Astronauts have photographed phenomena that would be difficult to capture from satellites alone. The extent and structure of lightning storms, the patterns of city lights, unusual atmospheric phenomena, all have been documented by astronauts with handheld cameras from the ISS. The scientific value of these Earth observations contributes to our understanding of climate, weather, and environmental change. The data helps climate scientists understand how Earth is changing and informs policy discussions about climate change mitigation. Let me discuss one final aspect: the future of multiple space stations and the transition from ISS to the next generation of orbital facilities. As the ISS ages and approaches the end of its operational life, plans are being developed for what comes next. NASA is planning the Lunar Gateway, which will be a space station in orbit around the Moon. This station will support lunar exploration and will be a staging point for missions to the lunar surface. China has developed and continues to expand its Tiangong space station, which operates independently of the ISS and carries Chinese astronauts, called taikonauts. Commercial space stations are being developed by companies like Axiom Space and others. These commercial stations will likely operate in Earth orbit, providing laboratory space for rent to researchers, companies, and organizations that want to conduct research in microgravity. This transition from a single international space station to multiple stations, some government operated, some commercial, some national, operating in different orbits and supporting different purposes, will be a significant change in how humans use space. The ISS, during its operational life, was the only continuously occupied space station in Earth orbit. In the future, there may be multiple stations, creating a richer ecology of space-based research and infrastructure. The ISS will have served its purpose as a training ground and testbed for the next era of space stations. Technologies developed for the ISS will be adapted for future stations. Procedures and techniques developed for ISS operations will inform operations on future facilities. The presence of multiple space stations in orbit would create new possibilities for research and for human spaceflight. It would represent an expansion of human presence in space, not just the replacement of one station with another. Looking further ahead, space stations might become even more common and diverse. Manufacturing facilities in orbit, tourist facilities, research platforms, refueling depots for spacecraft. The future of space stations might involve a diverse array of facilities, each serving different purposes, each contributing to human activities in space. The ISS represents the foundation upon which this future will be built. It's the proof of concept that humans can live and work in space, that research conducted in orbit is valuable, and that international cooperation can achieve great things. In 20, 50, or 100 years, historians will look back at the ISS and recognize it as one of the defining projects of early 21st century humanity. They will recognize it as the moment when humans established a permanent presence beyond Earth, when we took a decisive step toward becoming a spacefaring species. The ISS, in the end, is not just about the research conducted on it or the technical achievement of building it. It's about the statement it makes, that humans have the capability to go to space, to live there, to work there, and to do so peacefully in cooperation with other nations. It's a statement that our future is not confined to Earth. It's a statement about human potential and human destiny. Let me provide additional detail on the assembly of the ISS, because the process of building it in space was extraordinarily complex. The ISS assembly began with the launch of Zarya in 1998. This Russian module, weighing over 19,000 kilograms, was launched into orbit on a Proton rocket. For 3 weeks, Zarya orbited alone, waiting for the next piece. Then Unity was launched on Space Shuttle Endeavour. The shuttle, which could carry large payloads and could bring crews to orbit for extended stays, made it possible to conduct on-orbit assembly work. Astronauts aboard the shuttle remotely controlled the shuttle's robotic arm to guide Unity toward Zarya. Then, with careful maneuvering and precise alignment, the two modules were connected together. This first connection was the foundation. From this starting point, the station would grow. Over the following years, module after module was added. The Russian Zvezda service module was launched in 2000, providing life support and other critical systems. Initially, the station's crew size was limited to 3 people because the life support systems could only handle that many. When Zvezda arrived, the life support capacity increased, allowing larger crews. The American Destiny module arrived in 2001, transforming the station from a primarily Russian structure into a multinational facility with significant American laboratory capability. The Tranquility module arrived in 2009, providing additional environmental systems and crew facilities. The Harmony module arriving in 2007 connected different segments of the station. The European Columbus module arrived in 2008, adding European laboratory capability. The Japanese Kibo modules arrived between 2008 and 2009, adding significant Japanese research capability. Each launch, each connection, each spacewalk to integrate new modules required tremendous coordination. The pieces had to fit together. Power systems had to be integrated. Data systems had to be connected. Environmental systems had to be compatible. The complexity of this assembly process cannot be overstated. Building a structure in space where you cannot easily reach things, where mistakes cannot easily be undone, where each operation is carefully planned and practiced, it's one of the most challenging engineering undertakings humans have ever attempted. Over 13 years, more than 30 space shuttle missions flew to the ISS. These missions brought modules, delivered equipment, delivered supplies, and brought crews. Each shuttle mission was risky. The shuttles were complex machines operating in the harshest environment humans travel to. The decision to continue flying shuttles to the ISS after 2 shuttle accidents, Challenger in 1986 and Columbia in 2003, demonstrated the commitment to completing the station despite the risks. The assembly was finally completed around 2011 when the major modules were all in place. Since then, the station has been operated and maintained rather than being further expanded. Looking at the ISS today, seeing it fully assembled, knowing the history of how it was built, knowing the risks that were taken and overcome, the station appears not just as a facility for research, but as a monument to human determination and capability. Let me conclude with some thoughts on why the ISS matters not just for science, but for humanity's future and our conception of ourselves as a species. The ISS is evidence that we are not bound by the constraints of our birth on Earth. We have transcended the surface of our planet. We have established a presence in space. This is not a small thing. It's a fundamental change in what it means to be human. For most of human history, humans were creatures of Earth. We could see the sky, we could dream of space, but we couldn't go there. Space was something we could imagine, but not experience. The space age changed that. Humans traveled to space. We established that humans can survive in space, can work in space, can live in space. The ISS takes this further. It's not a brief visit to space. It's a continuous presence. Humans are there right now, have been there for over 2 decades, and will continue to be there for years to come. This changes our collective understanding of human potential. It shows that we can accomplish remarkable things when we commit ourselves to a goal. It shows that international cooperation can overcome geopolitical divisions. It shows that we have the capability to expand beyond Earth. The ISS is not the end of human space exploration. It's a beginning. It's the foundation upon which all future space activities will be built. It's a moment in human history to be proud of. It's evidence that we are capable of great things. It's a commitment to science, to exploration, to understanding the universe we inhabit. Let me share some remarkable facts and figures about the ISES that illustrate just how extraordinary this facility is. The ISS has a solar array area of over 2,500 square meters, almost half a football field. These arrays generate enough electricity to power a small city. The arrays must rotate to track the sun as the station orbits, requiring complex motorized systems that have functioned reliably for decades. The ISS has over 100,000 individual parts and 400 kilometers of internal wiring. If the wiring were laid end to end, it would stretch across the United States and back. The complexity of this electrical and data system, all functioning in the harsh environment of space, is extraordinary. The ISS orbits Earth every 90 minutes, completing 16 orbits per day. Over the course of the station's existence, it has orbited Earth hundreds of thousands of times, millions of times when adding up all the years of operation. Astronauts aboard the ISS travel at 17,500 miles per hour. This is the second cosmic velocity, the speed needed to maintain orbit rather than falling to Earth. If the ISS slowed down significantly, it would fall. The fact that it maintains this velocity continuously, never slowing, never stopping, is how it remains in orbit. The ISS has been continuously inhabited since November 2000, over 2 decades of continuous human presence in space. During all that time, there has never been a significant gap. Crews rotate, but the station is never abandoned. This continuous occupation is a remarkable achievement. The total cost of the ISS is estimated at over $200 billion across all participating nations. This makes it one of the most expensive structures ever built, ranking with large infrastructure projects on Earth. Yet the cost is distributed across many nations and across many years, making it manageable for each participant. The ISS has hosted over 200 crew members in its 2 decades of operation. These crew members come from dozens of countries and represent the best of human spacefaring. Many have been selected from thousands of applicants, representing the most competitive selection processes in the world. Experiments aboard the ISS have involved thousands of research participants and have produced hundreds of scientific publications. The research output, while not always dramatic or immediately practical, contributes steadily to human knowledge. The ISS is visible to the naked eye from Earth and has been observed by millions of people. There are organized efforts to track ISS passes and to help people know when to look up. Seeing the ISS pass overhead is an experience that touches people. It connects them to space exploration and to human achievement. The ISS has been photographed thousands of times from Earth and from space. Photographers have spent countless hours trying to capture the station. Some remarkable images show the ISS passing in front of the moon or the sun. These images, while rare, illustrate the intersection of human technology with the natural phenomena of our solar system. Astronauts have taken over 1 million photographs from the ISS. These images, many shared publicly, have become iconic representations of Earth and of human presence in space. The ISS has become a camera platform that documents our planet in unprecedented detail. The ISS has inspired countless people to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The impact on education and on human potential development is real, even if difficult to quantify precisely. These facts and figures illustrate that the ISS is not just a scientific facility, it's a monument to human achievement, a symbol of international cooperation, and a platform for understanding ourselves and our place in the universe. Looking forward, the ISS has perhaps another 5 to 10 years of operation before it reaches the end of its useful life. During that time, the research will continue, the scientific discoveries will accumulate, and the station will continue to inspire people worldwide. When the ISS is eventually deorbited, it will be the end of an era, but the legacy will endure. The knowledge gained from decades of operation will inform future space activities. The technologies developed will be refined and improved. The international cooperation that built and operated the station will serve as a model for future endeavors. The ISS stands as proof that humans can accomplish extraordinary things when we work together, when we invest in curiosity and exploration, when we push against the boundaries of what's possible. As you look up at the night sky tonight, if the ISS is passing overhead in your location, you might see it, a bright point of light moving steadily across the stars. When you do, remember that humans are there. Scientists, engineers, explorers. Humans are living in that point of light right now, conducting research, expanding knowledge, reaching beyond Earth. They're representing all of humanity, pushing the boundaries of what we can do and where we can go. The International Space Station is more than just an orbiting laboratory. It's a symbol of human ambition, human capability, and human hope for the future. It's a place where dreams of space exploration become reality. It's evidence that we can accomplish remarkable things when we commit ourselves to great endeavors. The ISS represents humanity at its best, curious, determined, capable of achieving the extraordinary when we work together across nations and cultures. Thanks for watching.